All right, this is Mr. Smith here, and we are preparing for our quiz over section 7.4 to 7.7, and here are 5 problems that I think reflect the material pretty well. Okay, so the first one comes from section 7.4, and they want us to simplify this. Now, at this point, we hadn't learned any of the properties of logarithms. We just had the definition. So what they wanted is in this section, we were going to go log base 2, and they wanted us to rewrite 32 as 2 to the 5th power. And so we get log base 2 of 2 to the 5x, and now our knowledge of logarithms allows us to just write this as 5x. Okay. If you don't like that approach, that's fine. If you don't like that approach, that's fine. You can use our power property that says you can take the x out of the exponent's place and bring it down. And now this is log base 2 of 32. And if you use your calculators, that'll give you 5. And the second problem, we're looking for the domain and range. Now, anytime we're dealing with a logarithm, the argument of the logarithm has to be greater than 0, which means in this case, our x value has to be from -4 to infinity. And the range of logarithmic graphs is from -infinity to infinity. It's all real numbers. Okay. All right, on the next problem, we're trying to find the inverse, so we switch x and y. So x equals ln of y plus 1. But now we want to get rid of the ln. Again, you cannot just divide both sides by ln. That's not an option here. The only way to get rid of the ln is to exponentiate it. We're going to put it up in the exponent's place, and so we're going to get e to the x equals e to the ln of y plus 1. But when I take e to the power of ln, now both of those cancel out, and I'm left with e to the x equals y plus 1. So I subtract 1, and I get y equals e to the x minus 1. And that is the inverse equation. Okay. On the second problem here, we're going to expand. We're going to expand this. So our properties of expansion say I can rewrite this as ln of 3 plus ln of x squared minus ln of y. And then our power property says I can rewrite the ln of x squared part as plus 2ln of x minus ln of y. And there's nothing more to do there. That's it. That's fully expanded, and that's what we are looking for. I apologize. I lost a 3 here. Let's get that in. So ln 3. Much better? Yeah, good. Thank you. All right, so looking at the last problem. This seems like some of the problems we've looked at before where we're solving equations, but this one gets a little bit more in depth at the end. Okay. So here we go. The first thing is we don't want to have 2 logarithms there. We want to combine it as 1. So in this case, we can write this as ln of x times x plus 3 equals 1. To get rid of the ln, we raise everything up into the exponent's place, so we get e to the ln of x times x plus 3 equals e to the first power. When I distribute the x, I get x squared plus 3x equals e. Now this is what type of equation? Right, we got to know what type of equation this is so we can use the right approach to solve this. This is a quadratic equation, but it has an e in it. Oh no, right? It's not a big deal. Set this equal to 0 like we would any quadratic equation. And now we have some approaches we could take. We could try to factor this. Anyone want to try to factor this? I don't. So let's go right to the quadratic formula here. Now, every problem that we've seen so far factored. You should expect your quiz tomorrow, every problem's going to factor. But what if I showed you one that it didn't? What would you do? Well, we have the quadratic formula at our disposal. Let's use it. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 9, minus 4 times 1 times negative e. So this should be plus 4e. All over 2. Remember, e is just a number, so it's okay to be there. E is a number between 2 and 3. So there it is. Now, at this point, this just equals 2 decimal numbers, and you could either leave it in this form, or you could give me the decimal values, and that would be fine. Right? Not a big deal. Except one issue. This gives me 2 solutions, and in most of our problems, one of them hasn't been working. So we need to know, do both of those solutions work? Otherwise, we're saying one of these is a solution, and it's not. So the square root of 9 plus 4e is approximately 4. It's a little bit bigger than 4. Okay, so let's say it's 4 for the time being. So negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7 divided by 2 is roughly negative 3.5. But I know that the domain of a logarithm says this number's got to be greater than 0, so I can't put in a negative number there. So I can come back to this, my quadratic formula, and I can simply get rid of that. Because if I leave that there, I'm going to get a negative number. I can't have a negative number because it's not in the domain of a logarithm. And there's our solution. That may be one of the ugliest solutions we've ever seen, but this is it. X equals, if I want to solve this equation, then the x value I need is negative 3 plus the square root of 9 plus 4e, all divided by 2. And that represents a decimal number like 0.79, something like that. But that's it. This is our solution. And notice it followed the exact same procedure that we've seen before. So I may do something like this to you on the test tomorrow. Right? This point, at this point in the game, this equation here, everything above this is going to look the same. But at this point, this may not be a nice quadratic equation. It may be a square root equation. How do we solve square root equations? Square both sides. Check for extraneous solutions. All right, so all bets are off once we get to this point. I promise it will be a type of equation that we have seen before. If it's quadratic, more than likely it'll factor. But there's no promise. All right, good luck in your studies. Thanks for your attention. This concludes our quiz review.